Good morning, everybody. It's Helen Hillocks, intuitive counselor and spiritual coach, and I'm here today to talk to you about the difference between healing and coping. And you may not have ever stopped to think about what the difference is between healing and coping, but I want to tell you that it's a huge, important distinction, and I want to teach you about that today. And if you're watching this on replay, please let me know where you're watching from. Hi. Hello, Ms. Childs. Welcome. I'm so happy that you're here. I'm talking today about the difference between coping and healing and how important a distinction that is. And I'm going to give you a bunch of examples, and I'm going to tell you what you can do about it also. And it's something that you can do something about. So don't dismay if you see yourself all over that coping aspect of life and not the healing aspect. So again, let me give you some examples. One example I heard of recently was a mother who was really anxious, and so anxious that she could never be alone. And she ended up, and this is not an uncommon thing, I want to say, she ended up having her daughter live with her for a long time after she was a grown-up. And this is such an example of coping instead of healing, that mother was coping with her high level of anxiety by having her daughter live with her, rather than healing that high anxiety, taking it on herself and healing that high anxiety so that she could manage to live a healthy, independent life and not have to have someone, especially her daughter, live with her. There are so many examples of this. Let's take sex, one of our favorite topics. People have so many sexual hang-ups, you can't touch my breasts, or don't touch me that way, or you only can touch me this way, or I have to think of this particular thought in order to find pleasure. Those are all examples of coping rather than healing, because there is a reason. And this is the basic distinction, is that there is a reason why we are doing every behavior that we do. There is a reason. And if that reason is that you have had some kind of trauma, some kind of pain in the past that causes you to behave this particular way, then that's coping. If you have healed that trauma, then you no longer need that coping behavior. And that's the distinction. Anything that you do that is basically a way of managing a pain that has been caused by some past behavior is a coping behavior. It's so prevalent in our society. We are taught to, if you want to look better, get a facelift, get a boob job, get some Botox in your lips. Those are also all coping behaviors. Believe it or not, they are coping behaviors, because there is a reason that you don't like your face the way it is. I'm so grateful that my husband has said to me, please don't ever do anything. Don't ever mutilate yourself. You look beautiful the way you are. And I'm so glad, because I wouldn't do it anyway. But it's so supportive and so contrary to our culture, which invites us to cope, and not heal. If you don't like the way your body looks, get liposuction or whatever, implants. Everything can be coped with instead of healed. So I want to invite you guys today to really look at your lives and see where you are coping rather than healing. And I know whenever I eat something that I know is not good for me, I'm coping. I'm eating as a coping mechanism because I'm perhaps feeling anxious in that moment. And I need to be aware, I get to be aware of that, so that I can take a look and say, what am I feeling right now? And it may not even be some deep old trauma in that moment. It might just be a small thing that you need to heal in that moment. I might snap at my husband, and that snapping is me coping with some feeling that I'm having. but it's not the way I want to behave. And what I get to do is I get to look at, thank you, for the awesome. I get to look at what I'm doing. Hey, King of Hearts, thank you for joining. We're talking today about the difference between coping and healing. And I'm Helen Hillix, intuitive counselor and spiritual coach. And the main distinction, King of Hearts, is that we are coping if we are using some behavior to cover up a feeling. That's coping, whether it's a particular way of having sex, or it's having your children live with you after they're grown up because you're too anxious to let them go, or it's maybe just being grouchy at your partner in that moment as a way of coping with the fact that you didn't take care of yourself this morning, you didn't eat right, or you didn't get enough sleep. And so that snappy behavior, that grumpy behavior, is really coping with something that you didn't, some self-love, self-care that you did not do. And rather than healing that and going back and eating something healthy or getting another hour of sleep, we cope with it by being grumpy at other people. So it happens all day long, every day, whether it's plastic surgery to cope with our dissatisfaction with how we look, or it's being grumpy to cover up some lack of self-care, or it's some perhaps much more deeply seated trauma that we've experienced in our lives that we get to see. We get to say, you know what, that trauma that I experienced, that molestation that I experienced that makes me unable to enjoy sexuality the way I'd like to, or that deep-seated fear of abandonment that causes me to cope by being clingy to the people around me. I get to own that. I get to see that it's nothing wrong with me. I'm not damaged. I'm not ruined. I'm not bad. I just have a pain, and so does everybody else. We all have had lives in which things have happened, haven't we? So we get to own that and take responsibility for that and say, you know what, I'm worth it. I'm worthy. I'm worthy of getting some help about this. I am worthy. Hey, welcome, Anderson Cooper. Please go back and listen to the rest of this. We're talking about the difference between coping and healing, and how coping behaviors have just become rampant in our society, whether, again, it's plastic surgery, or it's a particular way of having sex, or it's having our children live with us, or it's eating, or it's whatever we're doing that is making us behave a certain way rather than being free. We're not free when we're coping. We're not free to just be present in the moment and to be able to respond with an open heart. When we're coping, we have particular things that we have to do that cover up. I'm glad you understand. Thank you. That we do to cover up whatever that pain is, or that discomfort is, or that lacking is that we're experiencing. We're not free to just be present in the moment until we heal whatever it is that's underneath those coping behaviors. So I want to say again, we are worthy. We are worthy of healing. We are worthy of caring for ourselves that way, of getting the support that we need, whether it is just having someone help us prepare a healthy meal, that kind of support, or a friend to talk to about something that upset you between the two of you. You may be coping with that friend by being more distant than you really feel in your heart, but you're just coping because something unpleasant has happened and you're not actually healing what happened between you. So it could be just calling up your friend and saying, hey, you know what, I want to clear up what happened to us so that we're not distant anymore, so that we can heal that and let it go. So there are so many different things. And then there is calling someone like myself for intuitive counseling or spiritual coaching for some deeper trauma, some older trauma that needs to be really explored and understood and healed in a deeper, more complicated way. So there are many different kinds of support, and you're worthy of getting them all so that you can heal all those things, whether they're tiny or they're deep and traumatic. you get to heal those things so that you're not just coping and covering up all those feelings, which causes you to be distant from your life, distant from yourself, distant from each other, and not present in your lives the way that you deserve to be. So thank you so much for watching. Again, I'm Helen Hillocks, intuitive counselor and spiritual coach, and we've been talking about the difference between coping and healing. And I want you to remember that my slogan is from my heart to yours. And I love you all, and I'm here to support you. And I will be talking to you often, offering you these different teaching moments. So stay tuned. And if this resonated with you, please share this video so that others might understand the difference between coping and healing. And I will talk to you very soon.